Hello, I'm Councillor Sue Blatchford and I'm the Mayor of Southampton. I'm standing in the council chamber at Southampton Civic Centre. I have previously done a description about the chamber, which you can find on the Sea-City website. But there's sort of so much to tell. So I'm actually going to describe what happens when we have a council meeting, when we've actually walked into the chamber. So the councillors are already sat at their seats and you are the mayor and you're in a procession and you are following the town mace, the Oar of Admiralty, and then as the mayor, the mayor's mace is always in front of you, so you always follow the mayor's mace. You have taken your seats, so the big chair is the mayor's chair, and on one side will be the sheriff, and on the other side the chief executive. And the town sergeants will walk around the chamber and they will come back, and in fact for a council meeting both of the maces sit on this table, because this table is used by the staff taking notes of the meeting. So the town sergeants come around, they place the maces on their rests and they will bow to you and you bow back, and it's an acknowledgement in some ways, because there's a crown on the maces, of the authority of the monarch and the legislation which you are dealing with and enacting, as it were. But I'm going to start with the Oar of Admiralty, which sits in front of the mayor's chair. I've worn gloves because I'm going to actually handle these very precious, majestic items. So I'm going to start with the oar, which weighs 4 kilograms. It is actually made out of silver, and it's got a lead core, so it's actually quite, at least I think it's quite heavy. The blade of the oar has got details on both sides. So on one side you have part of the coat of arms of the city, and then on the other side you have the town rebus. So for those who couldn't write and read, or read and write, particular symbols meant things. So there is a S for Southampton. The H is for the ham, the settlement, and then there is a wine barrel, the largest wine barrel, a ton, which is 252 gallons, because of the importance of the wine trade in Southampton. The oar was given by Arthur Atherley in 1708, and there were a number of Arthur Atherleys for about 90 years who were mayors of Southampton, and local residents in Southampton are aware of the Atherley Road. So the archives actually have papers of the Atherley family, and sadly because of the lockdown I've not been able to find much information about why Arthur Atherley decided to present this wonderful Oar of Admiralty. You are, as the Mayor, also Admiral of the Port, and in times gone past, so we've been a jurisdiction as an admiral since 1451, an awful long time, and there were Admiralty courts, and so this oar would actually be taken to the Admiralty court as an indication of your power and your authority to deal with maritime matters. So we covered from Langston Harbour all the way to Lymington. The two hooks in front of the mayor's chair is where it rests, and the Oar of Admiralty faces a particular direction, that the blade of the oar will face towards the political party who lead the council at the time. So it currently faces that way. So that's the Oar of Admiralty. I shall now show you a flag, because when you are the mayor and you are the admiral of the port, you actually have an admiral's flag. So a white ensign with an anchor in the corner. And where I have been the mayor before, I was on HMS Severn, and they flew the admiral's flag. Stupidly, I didn't give my camera to the town sergeant who was with me, and they piped me on board. But there is a admiral's flag as well to go with the office. Don't fly it on too many ships, because I would hate to lose it because of the cost. This enormous mace is the corporation or town mace. It weighs about 15 pounds, 6.9 kilos, it's very, very heavy, and was given in 1708. And the council minutes at the time describe that following the success at the Battle of Oudenarde in Flanders, the MP for Southampton at the time, Viscount Henry Woodstock, gifted this noble mace. It's described in the minutes, because I did find it in the minutes of the council, gifted this noble mace to the town, because we were a town at the time. So there is an engraving about who it was donated by. There's his coat of arms. These unusual bulges are called knobs, and you can see that it's not solid gold. It is what you call silver gilt, and you can see where the gold is actually worn away. So this enormous mace is carried by a very strong town sergeant, and the maces were originally a weapon of war, a weapon where it started off as sort of like a wooden sledgehammer to fight in a battle, but over the time they had metal bits added and spikes, and became quite a vicious way of dealing with your enemies in battle. And so from that power in a battle, they sort of changed to be a symbol of authority within towns across the country. And so you actually have this enormous mace, which has got detailing around the edges. You have got the fleur-de-lis on the basis that they still wanted to have claim to France. There's the Irish harp, there's the English rose, and the Scottish thistle. You know, Wales was a separate country, so there's no link with Wales at all. Within the crown, you have got the coat of arms of Queen Anne, because of the date of the mace, because it dates from 1708. And you've got this crown, and then you've got the orb at the top, and you've got a cross at the top as well. So, and very similar maces all around the country, because Charles I actually dictated what form that maces would actually take. This small mace is the mayor's mace. Looks nice and shiny and golden, but in fact it's what you call silver gilt. So it's silver underneath and it's gold on top. And it was presented to the town, as it was, in 1662, after the monarchy had actually been restored. Charles I had actually indicated a formal pattern for what the maces should actually follow. So they all looked the same. And so I'm actually wearing gloves, which sometimes one wears for the ceremonial clothes, to actually indicate that there is the crown on the top, then you have an orb and a cross, and then you have the symbols for the different elements of the country. You have the fleur-de-lis, because they still wanted to lay claim to France, the Irish harp, the Scottish thistle, and the English rose. This weighs 4 kilograms and isn't as heavy. And then within the top crown part, there is the coat of arms of the Stuart family. So a much lighter mace. And whenever you are at an event, so for example, Law Sunday, where the Mayor of Winchester allows you to take all your regalia, you take your mayor's mace and you follow the mayor's mace. And if for the churches, if you're in a church service, whereas the mace is laid with the head pointing towards the mayor in a meeting, in a church, the head of the mace would point towards the altar, but some churches will actually have special stands for the mace to sit in for a service. And it's also used for probably one of our most important events of the year, which is the Remembrance Service, held at the Cenotaph every November, when all 3 of our maces are carried as part of the Remembrance Service. Charles II became king in 1661, and to celebrate that, because Southampton was a royalist type town, the good people of the town at the time, including the mayor, decided that they would melt down the corporation plate, the town plate. So they had a collection of silver, which is why we haven't got an enormous old collection of silver, because they melted it down so that they could actually form, with their 60 ounces of silver, a new town mace.